Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to World Hijab Day Global Conference. We are here in 2025 with an amazing lineup for you and for everyone who's tuned in. My name is Shreen Mahmood, and I am World Hijab Day Ambassador for the UK. I have been a proud supporter and advocate for hijab and for World Hijab Day. For many years now. So I'm super excited to be announcing that we have an amazing lineup and an amazing global conference for you all. We do have the first segment, which of course is faith and feminism. How the hijab empowers women is what we want to talk about. So today, of course, the story is hashtag hijabis unsilenced. We have an amazing speaker with us. I'm going to introduce you to a beautiful sister, a sister who is known for her advocate missions and her activism for the Afghani sisters. So let me, without further ado, introduce you to Sveta. Sveta Mohammed Ishoq is an award-winning women's rights activist and a TEDx speaker from Afghanistan. She has a pioneering force dedicated to empowering women economically and reshaping the narrative around her homeland. Now, her work establishing impactful organizations have led to empowering illiterate Afghan women through fashion and has raised awareness about the situation in Afghanistan. So, welcome, Sveta. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum, Shireen, and hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Shireen, for this kind introduction. And I'm doing well, thank you. And I think that the World Hijab Day is one of those conferences that I really look forward to every year. And I've had the privilege of serving on the board of the World Hijab Day for over a year now. I mean, the mission of the World Hijab Day is really close to my heart, very close to my heart. Even the other day at work, I was at work and I was seeing hijabis, and an idea came to my mind of, oh, I want to create like a society of hijabis, even though we don't have a lot of hijabis in the workplace. But that kind of idea came to my mind. So thank you very much again for having me and for organizing this incredible conference.
Oh my gosh, honestly. So that's beautiful. And that's the power of this global initiative, World Hijab Day, that Nazma Khan, of course, set up many years ago. So, without further ado, because we want to jump straight into questions, and I know we have a super special speaker also joining us shortly, and I think she's going to join us right now, Batouly Camara. But let me just ask you the very first question so we can get the tech side sorted quickly. And of course, the first question has to be, could you please share your personal journey that led you to wear hijab, and how has it shaped your sense of identity? Does it give you confidence in personal and the workplace, or does it hold you back in any way?
Yes. Thank you very much for that question. Well, whenever people ask me about this question of like when did you start wearing hijab and when did you really, was it like a force or was it a choice? I think my experience is very different from my Muslim sisters who are in the West, because I am not from the West. I'm from Afghanistan and I grew up my whole life in Central Asia and Afghanistan. So basically in the um, it's in the east, right? So it's not the Western world. So that's why it's a bit different, like my hijab story. I was raised in Tajikistan and Kazakhstan, which is in Central Asia. And growing up, I was not wearing hijab. And then when I was 15, we moved to Afghanistan. And in Afghanistan, during that time, it's like a culture, right? So you wear it, and it's also obviously it's for Islam, but also it's also influenced by culture. So you kind of feel that sort of pressure to wear it. And I just like I went there to Afghanistan, and I was like, okay, I have to wear hijab, which is fine. I was completely fine with it, and I was wearing it, and I was happy with wearing hijab. And I was in Afghanistan for about 11 years, and I would just obviously everyone is wearing hijab, and everyone's hijabi, everyone is Muslim. So I really didn't think too deeply about the why of the hijab, like why I'm wearing it, why is it important to me. I really didn't think too deep about it. I was just wearing it. Obviously, I knew I was doing it for my religion, but also for my culture because my family is wearing it. So it was kind of that perspective. But after sort of a few years later, when it was 2018. I got accepted to a fully funded fellowship program called Schwarzman Scholars Program to pursue my first master's in China. So I went to China in 2018, and it was during that time that I really realized that I really thought deeply about my religion, about hijab, about really, because I was put in a situation where I was it was my first time after a very long time when I was actually meeting non-Muslims, actually interacting with non-Muslims, and actually being outside of Afghanistan when everyone is a Muslim. So and I faced a lot of challenges because of that, and I'm sure maybe a lot of you can relate, living in the Western world or in general in the societies where it's like non-Muslim majority society. So I went to so for example, the first challenge that I faced, that I always say, as I call it, a handshake challenge. So it's basically the first day when I arrived at the airport. One of my uh, fellows, like classmates from the cohort, who was a male, from one of the European countries. He gave me his hand for a handshake, and that was a first shock for me because I never really realized and thought that, oh, I will face something like this, because obviously in Afghanistan nobody gives hand to the opposite gender. So that was the first shock that I actually faced, and um, then so that I kind of tried to navigate that challenge. But then I really felt bad about it, like telling people that I don't shake hands, and really kind of feeling like why I'm not doing this, and why people actually shake hands, like why they don't think that I'm a Muslim woman and I cannot do it. Obviously, I didn't think deeply that it's not something that people know about it, about Islam and about in general Afghanistan, or like culturally speaking. So I faced that challenge, but then all these challenges and kind of led to a lot of stereotypes, I would say. For example, a lot of the people when I was interacting, especially with men, they had this perception of stereotypes about these. Oh, if you're a Muslim woman, you are wearing hijab out of force and it's not choice. A lot of Muslim women, Afghan women, for example, are passive victims and they just have to wear it, and they do what they are told to do. And all these stereotypes really led me to think deeply about my religion. And so all these challenges also led me to think that, um, like, why am I wearing it, what is Islam? But I fell in love, so that kind of led me to find Islam. And every time I say to my friends, family, or everyone, that whenever I talk about Islam or like hijab, I say that I found Islam and hijab in China, which is very interesting, right? I always say that because that's exactly was when I found Islam. So I embraced it. I fell in love with hijab. I fell in love with my religion. And I really tried to, I went to different conferences, events, cultural events, and to really say the message of Islam, of my religion, of culture, and of Afghan women, that no, it is choice. It is choice. And I realized it when I went out of Afghanistan, that it was indeed choice for me. So I think that's kind of my hijab story. And then I embraced it. Hijab is
Subhanallah.
my identity. I feel like this is my identity, and feel super confident in my hijab, right? So yeah, so I feel very, very comfortable. And I remember during that year when I kind of talked to the speaking engagements on hijab, I spoke and shared. And at the end, when I was leaving China, one of my classmates said that how I changed her perspective about Muslim women, which is really great, because from what she said, that she had all these stereotypes about Muslim women, that this is forced, or that all these other stereotypes that people usually have about Muslim women. So I'm really happy that I kind of tried to influence people's perspective and perception on Islam, and on hijab. So I think that's my hijab story, which is very different from a lot of Muslim women's hijab story who are in the West, or who are converting.
I mean, what an amazing, powerful sort of message as you're finding the hijab, Islam, how you're coming to a deeper meaning and understanding of hijab. SubhanAllah. And that's what we love here at World Hijab Day, just sharing everybody's voices and stories and journeys. And you have an amazing one as well. So, I do have to mention here, World Hijab Day here is a not-for-profit organization, but we have had a wonderful sponsor this year, as you know, and we have had Voile Chic join us as a sponsor. That's our headline sponsor. So I have to say a special thank you to Voile Chic. And now I'm excited to announce also our next guest is here as well. So Sveta, stay on the line with us because we're going to be asking more deeper questions about feminism and hijab. And then we'll have that great conversation as well. So without further ado, let me introduce you to our sister Batouly. Our sister Batouly Camara is actually the. Oh, we would like you to turn on your camera if you've got a chance as well, Sister Batouly. So we have, let me introduce you. I'll introduce you because she's amazing. She's a basketball player. She's hugely tall, no doubt. And let me tell you all about Sister Batouly, right? So she's the founder and CEO of Awake. Batouly is a American basketball player, entrepreneur, and activist. She used to play college basketball and she founded Women's and Kids Empowerment. That's what WAKE stands for, a non-profit organization aimed at empowering girls through sports and education. Camara is also, of course, a motivational speaker, author, dedicated to promoting gender equality and youth empowerment globally. She has been named as Forbes 30 under 30. So a very powerful woman indeed, our sister Batouly, hoping that she will add her beautiful self to the screen shortly. But we can go on to the next question. Sveta, you're up. We are going to ask you what you think about feminism and hijab. How does feminism and hijab sort of interlink for you? Because I suppose, look, we're in the media quite often portrayed as oppressed rather than feminist. Within our communities, we don't like the term feminist or feminism. So how do you navigate this situation?
Thank you for that question. I actually really like that question because it's very deep, it's very meaningful, and it's very controversial. I would definitely say it's very controversial, especially among the feminist studies. And so I did gender studies in my second master's, and there's a concept of the that I always advocate for. There's two concepts actually. One concept is that I'm against about, and one is I'm for. So the against is it's called white feminism. So it's essentially the idea that how feminists or women's rights advocates in the West see women in the third world countries, and that also includes a lot of women who are Muslim majority countries and Muslim women. And that means that the standard, for example, the women's rights standard that is in the West, that is like the white feminism sees that as a standard and then compares it to the rest of the world. However, we know that Muslim women are different. We have different religion, we have different culture. Everything is different. It does not necessarily mean if certain rules that women in the West have and Muslim women don't have, that they are automatically oppressed. So that is kind of that concept is like of a white feminism. And there's another concept called the third world feminism, which I deeply sort of advocate for as well, because it is bringing the voices of women from the third world countries, and that also includes a lot of Muslim women, to the sort of feminist studies and feminism and this women's rights movements and advocacy, because that gives Muslim women a voice to speak out, to share their perspectives, share their opinions, and to really understand that this is a choice, like it's not forced. And a lot of the that kind of reminded me of another stereotype about hijab and Muslim women, is this general perspective that Muslim women are quiet, or Muslim women are very sort of they're very quiet and they don't speak. And I feel like I, being a very outspoken person and very outspoken hijabi Muslim, I really break all those stereotypes. Sometimes I'm thinking about it, and I'm just like, okay, this is very interesting how I, being just myself, I just break all these stereotypes about Muslim women. Like, it does not necessarily mean that if you're a Muslim woman and hijabi, you have to be quiet and you don't have a voice, or this perspective of like, oh, Muslim women don't have a voice. I think that's the word that I have the most problem with. We all have voices. We just have to be listened to, right? Muslim women, Afghan women, like we just have to be listened to and given the platform, like these platforms, to share our perspectives, to share our opinions, to really share what we care about and to talk about those topics. So definitely, I would definitely say that these sort of feminist studies and feminist world is very, very problematic when it comes to Muslim women, because there's a general perspective that Muslim women are oppressed and they don't have a voice. And so which I completely and 100% disagree with, because we have seen women in our religion. And Shireen, I'm sure you know, and every Muslim woman knows, the first university was founded by Muslim women, by Fatima al-Safari in Morocco. And we have amazing, our prophet's wives were amazing entrepreneurs. They were teachers, they were leaders in their communities, in their societies. They were scholars, teachers, doctor, like they were entrepreneurs. So I think these are the stories that we have to tell to the Western world, to break these stereotypes. Because if you are a Muslim woman, it does not necessarily mean how you see them. You have to just listen to them, to their stories and their perspectives. So I think that's what I think, and I'm super passionate about this topic. So you're on mute, Shirin. I cannot hear you.
I said I absolutely love that, and we have to be right. We have to be powerful with our voices. And you're right. Sometimes the platform is not there. Sometimes we have the misconceptions, and we have people impose their own thoughts on us. But at the end of the day, we use our voices, and if we don't have the platform, we create the platforms, and that's where I love the fact that so many Muslim sisters are thinking, you know what, move over. Let us make our own tables. We don't need a seat at your table where there's restrictions or where there's other, issues around that. But let me welcome, of course, once again, Sister Batouly. Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Walaikum salam. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well, alhamdulillah. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
I'm so glad once again we get to speak, because I know you were featured on one of our World Hijab Day conferences previously. And since then, it's just been going from strength to strength, right? With your basketball, with all the things that you're founding and creating these initiatives for empowering the youth and women around you. So I'm so glad to have you. And I know sometimes we can have some tech issues and things like that, but alhamdulillah, we roll on. We roll on, and I'm going to ask you the very first question. Could you quickly just share about your personal hijab journey? And then we're going to delve right in, and we're going to ask you about feminism and where you sit with that conversation and how you feel, whether you need that term feminist. Are you a hijab feminist, or are you actually just a Muslim woman who chooses to wear hijab? So I'll let you delve in.
Yes, well, thank you so much. It's been amazing to listen to your story and to be a part of this awesome panel. So for me, I grew up in New York City. I was a first generation Guinean from West Africa. And in New York City, it was kind of a journey. I remember going to Madrasa school, Sunday school, Saturday school, and that was the only time we wore hijab. But I always had a deep respect and a deep love for it. I don't think I really understood it. And once, in Eid, and that's what I feel like, I was Eid Muslim at that time. And once we were able to get older, and I remember going to college and really um, having more conversations with younger girls, right? I would always say, I'm Muslim. And I remember one girl, it's so funny, back in Guinea, one girl came to me and she's like, well, the first thing on your Instagram page is that you're Muslim, but I don't see anything Muslim about you. And I was shocked. I was like, how could this like 9-year-old girl tell me the truth like this, you know? And she had a great point and gave me some deep self-reflection about identity and choosing, you know, who you are. And if that's the case, you have to live that life. And so that was the kind of initial step in process of me, you know, figuring out who am I, you know, if I'm calling myself this, what are the attributes, what are the traits, you know, what is the dress, what is expected of me to uphold. And so yeah, it was very, very thankful to have an amazing community during the time I was playing basketball at UConn. And just throughout my life, you know, alhamdulillah, Allah provided a lot of community and a lot of mentors to that journey. And I decided this was the next step in my faith journey, right? I think it was a manifestation of what had occurred in my heart, alhamdulillah, and that was just manifested out loud. And what a beautiful thing, because you think about different things. I never wanted to miss Allah, right? So, I mean, how do I dress in a way, obviously, that helps me not to miss Salah? You know, I wanted to be able to say salam and send salam upon my sisters. Okay, how am I able to be recognized by them in public spaces, right? So these are all things that, as the love grows and the identity grows and the want and desire to be better every day grows, I think it was a natural transition, and alhamdulillah, it's been beautiful. It was different on the court. It faced a little bit of resistance, just in terms of people who know you in the past, and you're like, well, why are you doing this? Or, you know, what's the matter? But alhamdulillah, it was more support than anything. And then from there, you know, in terms of feminism, you know, in college you do take so many different classes, but I think it's about an inner strength. I think there's ways in which, right, we talk about feminism and Islam, like owning property, like that's real thing, right? It's real, I think, power and real feminism. And I don't use that term a lot. I think there's so much history and historical context that we don't understand. So I don't. So I'm a Muslim that covers happily by choice, alhamdulillah. And yeah, thank you.
Shireen, you're on mute.
I keep muting myself so we can focus on your voices. But I wanted to say, subhanAllah, like, you know, that you've just shared that a 9-year-old came to you, and identity is such a huge thing for us as Muslim women. We actually did a try on your hijab campaign here in the UK in Birmingham, and so many women actually came to us and asked us, but why do you wear it? You know, and the fact of the
Yeah.
matter is no one, even without speaking to us, people know us as
Mhm.
Muslim women. You know, we wear it proudly. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. So thank you
Right.
so much for sharing that with us, because that's it. And I just messaged everyone, oh my God, chills, because that's what it's all about, you know, this sisterhood that we have, and the fact that we can share these type of things. So alhamdulillah. I do want to know where you fit in with feminism, because this is a topic that we always, you know, as much as people say hijabis are actually oppressed, you know, feminists are, you know, sort of pitted against us on the opposite side. And unfortunately, we find that feminists often are quite selective. Yes, they're very much, women should be able to wear what they want, unless it's to cover ourselves with a hijab or an abaya or even a face veil, a niqab. So, where do we sit with this? I really want to ask you both where you think, or if there's a message you want to give to the feminists who unfortunately give us um, a lot of backlash when we talk about hijab and World Hijab Day. Who's first?
I can go first.
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, we talked previously about feminism, so I can continue that. I mean, honestly, for feminists, as you say, who there are. By the way, I saw your BBC report on putting on hijab on women. Like, it was amazing. So well done, Shireen. Really proud of you. And about the message for feminists or the who don't understand, it's again that when one message speak to the women themselves and hear their perspective. I'll give you an example. So recently, in one of my colleagues shared with me how in her country, which is one of the European countries, she went to an area where it was a Muslim majority area, and she was telling me how she really didn't feel comfortable to being in that space because in the streets she was telling me how there was only men, there was no women were sitting at home, they were not career driven, they were not career focused, so they were just sitting at home raising kids, and women, only men were outside, and she didn't feel comfortable, and she really felt that women didn't have a voice there, and she felt that women didn't have a choice there, or didn't have they're basically oppressed, that this was like a very typical stereotype. And so she was really feeling that, oh, she felt unsafe, and she was really feeling bad for the women in that area. And so my first question to her was, have you spoken to women in that area? And her response was that she didn't. You see, this is problem, right? So if we have if we see and observe, and if we see an area, or we are in a situation and we have certain conclusions based on our observation alone, without actually communicating, without actually speaking to the women and having certain conclusions about those women, it is really problematic, right? So for example, if she would have spoken to a Muslim like women who sits at home, obviously maybe she would gain some more perspective. Maybe she was happy that women, it was her choice, and she doesn't want to work. So I think another opposite thing about the Western feminism that I mentioned before in the West is how there is this women have to work, like you have to work. It's kind of enforced on people to have careers. Whereas in Islam, the beautiful thing is that we have a choice. Women have a choice of not working. Like it's not an obligation on us, which is beautiful. I found it very empowering. I found it very beautiful. Like you don't have to work. But however, in the Western world, we all know that it's kind of imposed through the either governments or policies, and the economic system in general. And so I think it's very, the key is to speak to women themselves, to listen to their voices, to see what they have to say, what they have to communicate and convey. And I think that will solve a lot of the misconceptions and stereotypes, and be open to it. I think another thing is be open to it, be open-minded, don't judge, don't have these stereotypes beforehand. I know we all have stereotypes about a lot of things. However, the best thing is to just go with an open mind and speak to that person without any judgments. Or another thing, actually, I want to share. I know it's a very public platform, but it's, I think, a stereotype that I recently hear a lot, is that perception that Muslim women or women who wear hijab, they are married. So I see a lot of the conversations recently who just ask me, oh, do you have kids, or how many kids do you have? And when I respond that I'm not married, it's just, I think it ties to the stereotype of Muslim women, that if you are a Muslim woman, then automatically you have to be married and have children. So I think, yeah, I think those are the stereotypes, even though these are small, but it's just, it's not normal, right? We have to break those
That's crazy.
stereotypes. Yeah.
That's a very interesting one. I've not come across that one, but I can understand from the community and the culture how it might seem, especially if they think that our husbands force us to wear hijab, for example. The hijab came before the husband, often, I'll be honest. And it's a really crazy one that you've mentioned there. So we've learned something new today, no doubt. Um, so Batouly, I'd love for you to come in on this conversation, because our topic, of course, is faith and feminism. So I really want to hit the nerves of certain feminists, perhaps, with our powerful messages. So what would you have to say?
I would say, in terms of when you get down to the root, right? Because you always have to think about what is being asked, right? And what is the background and the emphasis and underlying factor of feminism. It was rights that were not presented to women. Thus, a movement was created to provide those, right? I think, as it was mentioned before, this was a movement with a certain woman in mind, right? With a certain demographic and a certain person in mind. And it's geared towards that. It's geared towards that privilege. And when we think of feminism and taking rights back, we look at these high level industries, right? Like, we look at marketing and makeup and clothing and all these things that are strictly targeted to women, right? And who feel like, okay, I'm having this freedom of choice, but really don't know um, what their choices are, or understand that they are also being involved in different sectors that are not, rooted in feminism. And so I think I would say to them, like she mentioned, a lot of women wear hijab by choice. And a lot of them, like you said, before marriage. I think that's the real point, and it's being able to choose and to live a life that you think fits you best. And I think that's what feminism should encompass. I don't think it does. I think it's limiting beliefs. I said it started with a potential and a specific demographic in mind and person in mind and what they believe in. It's constricting. It's not ideal. It doesn't fit, I think our mold. And so with feminism, I'd ask, well, what else do you do? What are you subjected to? And I think, as Muslim women, we have this freedom of choice, right? Freedom of action, freedom of mind cannot necessarily fit the beauty standard and mold that's presented to us a million times a day through advertising, geared advertising and high level marketing. And so I really ask them to reframe their thinking, because I think Muslim women are really just trying to live their life. But in terms of, I think, stereotypes is, she mentioned that taking away someone's voice, like you're meek or don't understand what's going on, or you're not, in the dunya, the sense, like you don't know what's happening in the world, or you're up to date, or you have hobbies. I think that's such a bad stereotype, that you're not living life because you chose to dress and identify a certain way. And so that's something I constantly run into on the basketball court is, oh, I can't believe you're doing this. Or it's like, do you not expect women to have a life even when they are following their faith? And so I really, and that's even within Islam, right? Like other Muslim women, oh, wow, I never thought this was possible for us to not pigeonhole ourselves because we are choosing to wear our faith out loud. And so I think we also have to be careful in our communities of, what's coming in our communities, right? Or what we think, because I think what we have is true and it's complete. And I think it doesn't stop us from living our lives.
Amazing, amazing. And what a way to end that little bit, that snippet of, our deen is complete, it is true. And do we actually really need feminism in its sort of understanding by the world? Do we really need feminism in a beautiful deen that has already honored and given us so much dignity, so many rights? We were there. I think probably in the loose term of its meaning, as Muslim women, we are already empowered and full with, fulfilled with so many rights. And I think that's got to be the key message here. We don't actually need feminism as it's, as it is known right now, because it is selective. It is only for the potentially, the white feminist, or for, very particular women who say that you must remove your clothing rather than wear hijab. And I think the real message of World Hijab Day is being pro-choice and pro-freedom to make that choice. And we say, of course, to have the freedom to wear our faith on our heads as headscarves, as hijab, and we shouldn't have to fear discrimination. And unfortunately, that is the case. Whether that's discrimination in the workplace, whether that's discrimination even within our society, in so many different layers within the sort of authorities and the government policies, we see so much, unfortunately, around the world, globally, sort of that adheres to that type of narrative that actually bans on burkinis, bans on hijabs, bans on niqabs. And I think one of the worst things is when you see a Muslim country try and ban the hijab. And, the context of various enforcements of hijab or even banning of hijab, I think they're two sides to the same coin. And of course, World Hijab Day, we're all about pro-choice. And I think I would challenge the feminists to find me, even a handful of women, obviously not in a country where it's forced, to wear hijab, but I would challenge them to find even a handful of women who choose to wear the hijab in the countries where it's a complete freedom, and for them to actually tell you that, you know, we're empowered. We're, the words I've heard is liberated, empowered, and, you know, free. And this is got to be the key message, I think, especially when it comes to faith and feminism. If we've got Islam, if we've got faith, we don't need feminism, surely, right? um, I'd love to hear a little bit more. We are short on time, of course. So I am going to ask you guys, please do share a powerful message with all who are thinking of wearing hijab, or who are worried about wearing hijab, or even those sisters who wear hijab and perhaps are still, you know, thinking, how are we supposed to walk, you know, the streets of such an Islamophobic climate right now? Batouly, do you want to go first?
Sure. I would say on my hijab journey, um, I would say even if it's not, I think we get so fixated on the hijab. I would say ask God to show you the truth. Before I began wearing hijab, I did a deep lesson in history. Um, why do we even cover our hair? I would tell you go back to history because history repeats itself. Why do we cover our hair? Why do kings and queens wear crowns? Why do chefs wear hats? Why do nuns cover? What is the meaning of a headdress? What is the purpose, right, of a turban? Or those in the Sikh faith? What is the purpose of this headgear? And I think one thing that will happen is the truth will slowly show itself, right? The truth is a test of time, can withstand time. And so before you get so fixated on this, I truly believe in this. I truly believe in, right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guiding. So ask for the truth, right? Ask for the truth and for beneficial knowledge and see where that leads you, right? Rather than help me to wear this hijab, help me to fix it on one thing when it's so complete. And so that's one thing I would say to even sisters, right? Review your history. We're in such a fleeting world and fast time. History repeats itself. Review your history, get common knowledge, and see how that translates and unfolds into Islam and vice versa. And you got this. You got this. My teacher once told me, you wouldn't just leave a diamond out in the open. You would cover it and you would protect it and you would shield it. Um, and so you are a diamond, right? To cover and protect and shield yourself in the best way you can.
I absolutely love that. And I think, subhanallah, it's the feels, it's the sisterhoodness, and the fact that we're giving voice to these messages for our sisters to understand as well across the globe. So Sveta, please do share your message as well.
Thank you so much, and I echo all the words that Batouly said. Like it's like I think that's the most sustainable way of wearing hijab, because I've seen a lot of women when they wore, because of the pressure like from parents or husbands, it was not sustainable. It was they just removed the hijab after a year or two, and it's unsustainable, right? So whenever you choose to wear hijab, make sure first of all it's your choice. Second, in order to make sure that it's your choice, do research, understand the wisdom behind it, why we're wearing it, what is the like why we're wearing it, and really go deep and do research and take your time. I think that's something that I want to also mention, is don't do it just quickly immediately. Take your time, do your research, understand it well, speak with women who wear it and how it feels, and understand the wisdom behind it, why we have to wear it, and who are we doing it for. And like another tip that I always kind of try to give is really put like a practical thing, like put a sticky note in your desk or somewhere, and just to remind you why you're wearing it, and that will keep that reminder of like why, and will prevent you from like removing it. And I think another is also the peer pressure. I see a lot of the peer pressure happening on hijabi Muslims, of kind of encouraging them to remove hijab. So I think that's also something that that they have to, I mean, hijabis have to fight with on daily basis. But again, reminding the why, like the bigger picture, the why, because it's not just a piece of cloth. It's so much more than that. As we talked about it, right? It empowers us. It gives us a voice. It makes you feel very comfortable, very confident. So it all comes with understanding the rationale and the reason behind why. So I think that's understanding the why, putting that why in somewhere visible where you can see in sticky notes in their desk and somewhere that you can see it every day. And yeah, that will keep, for women who are already wearing it, that will keep them motivated. And especially in the Western world, we acknowledge that it is challenging. I think that's something that we have to acknowledge. It is challenging in this very society where there's Islamophobic, and there's so many challenges that we are facing. However, I think that will help. And just remember that why we are doing it, we are doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think that's one of the biggest motivators. Yeah, so I think that's my key message.
Subhanallah, subhanallah, absolutely. And look, I mean, just on the screen, we've got someone who is a CEO, a founder, somebody on the list for 30 under 30 on the Forbes list. You have yourself, who, I mean, the leadership opportunities that you've had, the travel, the platforms that you've spoken on. I was on the BBC just yesterday, and I have to say, when Allah allows you to make an impact, Allah will give you that platform without us even realizing. I was actually told many years ago to remove my hijab for better opportunities on TV. And it was actually a Muslim sister who said to me, remove your hijab and you will get so many better opportunities. And I said to her, no, because those opportunities are not for me. I am not interested in any opportunity where I can't be a Muslim woman and a proud Muslim woman who chooses to wear hijab. So with that, I'll be honest, now mainstream media will contact me to ask what's happening in the world of conflict, humanitarian aid work, for example, or even they know us to be strong, powerful Muslim women who choose to cover. So there's a way that Allah always gives, and risk is written, and risk is also our opportunities. And I think it's amazing that you both have been able to achieve so much through the work that you're doing in sports, in basketball. Batouly, I'll be honest, I still, every time I see something of yours, I think, you know what? I really should get back into netball, or here in the UK, it's more like netball than basketball. And it makes me want to join, because you make it look like such a safe space, and a space where we can all share, some fitness and some shooting skills and, those type of things. And Sveto, honestly, seeing you travel the world, speaking on something that is actually quite a scary topic in the Western world, right? Afghanistan is also always in the news, but in a negative way. So, subhanAllah, I suppose my little message would be to each and every one of us, if we put God first, then Allah does the rest of it. And that's the biggest thing here, is as sisters, we should be connected and we should be empowering each other. And the other thing is, nothing that we do, should hinder anyone else. So if we're working together, not just within the Muslim community, we should be able to speak to our non-Muslim counterparts, people from all faiths and none. And yesterday, I'll be honest, the response we had was lovely. People were agreeing with us that the base of this is pro-choice. We should be able to wear whatever we want. Batouly, you mentioned about the marketing and the, sort of the sinister self-esteem related and the conforming of modern day society's idea of beauty or idea of success. Even we've spoke about a lot during this segment, and I think these conversations need to continue, and inshallah they will. And please do stay in touch with World Hijab Day. Please go follow our sister Batouly with all the amazing work she does. What we want to do is support our sisters who are doing amazing things, because inevitably these sisters mean that so many in the future will be inspired and will also take that, take that lead in the future for our future generations and for the youth as well. So please do go follow Sister Batouly. Please do go follow Sister Sveto as well. And of course, World Hijab Day is live for a few hours, and we have some amazing, amazing segments, moderators, and panelists joining us as well. I want to do a huge thank you to our sponsor this year, who, of course, was Wal Chic. So, thank you so much to our platinum sponsor for World Hijab Day Global Virtual Conference 2025. I do have to mention here as well, World Hijab Day is a not-for-profit organization, and we rely on your support to share and tag and understand the stories, understand the statistics, and do our research and our initiatives as well. So, being a not for profit organization, we do have an opportunity for you to donate financially and support us. We are all volunteers here, but we do this because we love hijab. We do this because we love our sisters. We do this because we love that we can come together and support our sisters for the freedom to choose to wear hijab, and for also, breaking down those barriers, breaking down any discrimination we may face. And of course, it's an opportunity for you all to share, your blessings with us and your support as well. So we will in the comments, leave the Launch Good page. Please do donate if you can, and if you can't, please do share that with your friends and family and your colleagues. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the tawfiq to be able to donate and support these initiatives. Also, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala soften our hearts to our brothers and sisters and allow us to be of benefit to mankind and humanity and our sisters all across the world. So without further ado, I am going to leave you to it. Stay tuned, because we are going to have a beautiful another topic segment hosted by, of course, our amazing Ashley. So stay tuned, guys. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.